The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth wish to acknowledge that we are located on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the beautiful homeland of the MACY Nation. Do we have the actual right? This is it?
TRC, call
Okay.
to action.
TRC call to action.
Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Let's
All
start.
right. Hello, folks out there, Winnipeg, Manitoba, all you Facebook friends. We just want to say thank you for joining us again from the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Young People. My name is Cathy Cook, and I am the Youth Engagement Coordinator here. Today we will be talking about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission discussion. So today we are going to focus on call to action number 3, calling upon all levels of government to fully implement Jordan's Principle. That'll be our topic today, but I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves on this beautiful sunny day, March 26th.
I'm John. I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator here at the Manitoba Advocate. And yeah, we're going to join you here for the episode 5. We'll kind of tie in the UNCRC right. And I think once we start talking, you'll find out how you have the right to quality health care, number 24 UNCRC right, just how that fits into what we're talking about today with, you know, the calls to action and call to action number 3, very important one.
Mm-hmm. Bonjour, I'm Cheryl Alexander. I'm the knowledge keeper here at the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth. So this one is one of the ones that has had some progress since the beginning of the TRC. This is one that has kind of gone through a timeline. But before we do that, I'm going to just go and do a little bit of a brief history about Jordan River Anderson. So Jordan River Anderson was a First Nations child from Norway Cree House Nation.
Norway Cree Nation. Norway House Cree Nation.
Yes, sorry, I had that backwards. He was born in 1999 with complex medical needs that could not be treated on reserve. He spent more than 2 years in the hospital in Winnipeg before the doctors could agree that he would be able to leave the hospital to be cared for at home. But because of the jurisdictional disputes within and the federal and provincial governments who would pay costs for the in-home care, Jordan spent more than 2 more years in hospital unnecessarily before he tragically died in 2005. He was 5 years old and he never got to spend a day in the family home. So in response to this tragedy, Jordan's Principle was created. It was the first Child First Principle calling on the government of the first contact to ensure First Nations children can access public services on the same terms as other children. In December 2007, a motion 296 in support of Jordan's Principle was passed unanimously in the House of Commons. If the federal and provincial governments followed Jordan's Principle, there would be no jurisdictional disputes, and First Nations children would not get caught in the middle of government red tape like Jordan did. So today, we'll fast forward to 2021. And I do believe that Jordan's Principle is fully implemented and has had, I don't know where we are in 2021, if they're getting another extension, but Cathy was just at a conference, so I'll let her do a little synopsis.
One of the things I think really we need to highlight here is that Jordan River Anderson was a young child who essentially had needs that were over and above what could be provided in his community. In his own home. So the tragedy here really lay in the idea that they were capable of allowing Jordan to be taken care of in his home alongside his family, his siblings, his aunties, his uncles, his cousins. We all, I think, want our children home. So the idea that it was a possibility is really tragic in that once they realized there was the capability of treating Jordan River Anderson in his home, in his community, it then became an argument between the federal government and the provincial government, because nobody could figure out who was going to pay for the services that would be required to allow him to live at home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea that provincial and federal, so when Cheryl talked about the jurisdictional disagreements, the idea that you have two levels of government that cannot come together to agree that one or the other should make sure and allow for this young person to be cared for in his own loving home. So when we look at the government, or asking or calling on all levels of government to fully implement Jordan's principle, while we have come strides ahead, what I will say is there is still such a lack of knowledge around what Jordan's principle can support within community and outside of community. So one of I was able to, and I was really grateful to have been there. I was at a conference, a 3-day conference, with people all over, from all across Canada, and it was an opportunity for the tribunal lawyers to talk a little bit about which cases had come through the system and had been successful. While it is fantastic that we've had such a success rate, we are still so far behind in that we all need to acknowledge and understand better what Jordan's principle offers our young people. One of the common misperceptions is that Jordan's principle, or any funding, needs to be applied for through a legal guardian or through an agency. That is in fact not true. Any person, anybody in Canada can call the 1-800 number. We'll make sure we have the link up to have those discussions and to see if a particular situation will warrant funding for that particular issue. So again, I'll pass it off to John, because really how that kind of meets with our United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children is Article number 24 states you have the right to quality health care. That in itself screams how important Jordan's principle is, because every child, non-Indigenous, Indigenous, has the right to access quality health care and services, and if they are able to do so, they should be able to do it in their home, in their community, or wherever that family or wherever that child can receive the best services while being supported by community and family. Sorry guys, that's a big one for me, because I want everybody to know about Jordan's principle. I want everyone to call the 1-800 number and ask about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, call. You don't have to call about funding. Call and say, I just need to know. What kind of resources would this provide the young people I'm working with? Yeah.
And I think to the UNCRC right, you have the right to quality healthcare, and I know that right, it continues on to talk to affordable food and water, but really the first part of that right, the quality healthcare.
Quality healthcare that should not be, it should be everyone should know that they have that right. Yeah. Child, person in Canada, this is Canada, and I really suggest that we start promoting an awareness of children's rights, whether we go to school, campaigns, but everybody needs to know that they have these rights, especially in the schools that they don't seem to know. So, yeah.
And unfortunately, this young man, this young boy, this right was not met. And that's where Jordan's principle has come from. It's come from a child's rights, the right to quality healthcare not being met. And I think that's very important that we remember there's a person, Jordan River Anderson, who this principle was named after. His rights were not met. And that's where we can do better, and that's what Jordan's principle is attempting to do, is to do better for these children.
And I really want to acknowledge what John says about Jordan River Anderson. One of the key takeaways from this 3-day conference was not only the whole idea, the concept, the where this was born from, but one of the really big things for me, and John just really touched on it, Jordan River Anderson, this was a young boy, and this will be his legacy. And one of the things that really struck me at the conference was the conversation about how we are referring to different services. And I'm going to tell you, I have been guilty for the last probably 5-10 years of referring to Jordan's principal as JP. I will never again do that. I apologize for even saying it today, because one of the takeaways really was that we tend to in systems turn everything into acronyms or take away from a legacy. It just becomes a program or a project. But one of the things that was born from this whole implementation idea really was that Jordan River Anderson's family and all of his supports and collective persons in his life really stressed the importance of calling it Jordan's principle. They would forever like to ensure that his legacy lives on.
And he's honored.
And that he's
It
honored.
is his legacy, so we should be honoring him by saying his name correctly.
So I'm going to take the time to apologize to anybody and everybody I have ever spoken to that I've referred to it as JP, because I will no longer do that. Again, Jordan River Anderson was a young boy who was entitled to the exact same quality of health care as every other child in Manitoba. And because of this jurisdictional dispute, because levels of government could not agree on who should cover the cost, this young boy, tragically, his life was over without him ever being able to be at home with his family.
So it's safe to say that after this conference, we know that Jordan's principle is now being fully implemented in most, if not all, northern communities. They have the access or a worker to be able to have contact, to be able to help provide the information, application, and be able to assist in any way. And I've been in meetings across domains that have had a Jordan's principal worker, and very helpful to be able to help go through the process with the families.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind, again, I really need to stress the importance of the idea, or not the idea, I need to stress the importance that anyone can call that 1-800 number. Anyone can call looking for information on funding. It does not have to be a legal guardian. You can be a service provider and start that ball rolling. And again, while it is fully implemented, as Cheryl was saying, I don't know that there's enough awareness out there on what Jordan's principle may cover or do for you or your community. So again, I was really humbled at being able to sit amongst 10,000 people. Granted, it was on Zoom, but just to hear the stories, and again, understanding and acknowledging that, again, this is a legacy of a young boy.
Excuse me, I have to
So I guess we've kind of talked about the call to action number 3. I'll just revisit. We call upon all levels of government to fully implement Jordan's principle. And as Cathy and I have said here, we've tied that into UNCRC article/right, number 24. You have the right to quality health care. And just connecting those to help people realize we have the calls to action, but they also relate to the UNCRC and actual children's and youth rights as well. So we have to keep that in mind, that there's these two functioning
Pieces of legislation or of written, right?
And we can't just ignore them. These are things that are binding and they're legal, and these are things that we have to ensure are being followed, so that we don't have another Jordan River Anderson situation come up where a child's rights aren't being met. And I don't mean just healthcare wise. So we got to keep that in mind, and it's very important we have these discussions.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, as always, there will be information in the link if you ever have any questions. Again, our office is located at 346 Portage Avenue here in Winnipeg. We are at Mystery Lake City Center Mall in Thompson. Any young people or teachers or service providers that have young people that would like to participate in the work of our office, always feel free to reach out to myself or John or Cheryl. We really do appreciate the opportunity to spend, the 10-15 minutes with you on. Generally, we have birthdays and shout-outs. Do we have any?
You know what? Actually, on Tuesday, Bryce Clemens up in Thompson, starting with our Northern YAAS team, had his birthday. So we should say happy birthday to Bryce.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Bryce.
Okay, and I'm going to end with a funny story because I feel like this was heavy. So it is the last few days of March, and so with the last few days of March comes my birthday. So I'm not trying to shout out or kudo to myself, but I do have to share it's going to be the best birthday ever. And the reason for that is that I thought I was turning, I'll just give it up, I thought I was turning 48. And as it turns out, I'm only 46 today. So best birthday ever. I have gained a whole year. So anyways, I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone. So someone said chalk it up to old age, but I just think it's pure luck.
You got 2 more years, girl.
I know. So with that, Cheryl and I were out in Steinbach. Shout out to Rose and Sophia for joining us out there tonight.
I'm the artist.
And the artist Annie, and just because I've also shared my age, I was doing cartwheels, and I was on a balance beam, and I did a zip line.
I can get her to do anything.
Yes, Cheryl was egging me on.
Yes, it was very good. So thanks for joining us today on the call to action number 3. This one was a little bit heavy, but it's getting some progress. Because in December of 2007, that's when this went to the House of Commons and was unanimously approved because of the severity of the case. And yes, so I like to say his full name, Jordan River Anderson. And yeah, that's Jordan's principle has been implemented in a way, but still as part of the Truth and Reconciliation discussions, I think that it's important for people to realize why we're calling attention. These issues are not going away. They have to be. They're going to start talking about other stuff that'll get a little more heavier, and so it's good that we're talking about it, just like when we got into the heaviness of the UNCRC.
Yeah.
Next, it'll be the UNDRIP. So we'll have a lot to talk about. So stay tuned, folks.
Stay tuned, and remember, even though the conversations are often difficult, they're really, really important that we have them because it's part of reconciliation is understanding and being mindful that there's a lot of work we have left to do, but starting those conversations is that first step. So
and that reconciliation is ongoing every day. It can come up at any time, and that's the beauty of reconciliation. So thank you guys. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for sharing with me, you guys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week when I am not even 1 year older.